We go back to 2006. State of New Hampshire in its retirement system ranked 6th from the bottom. Around here, with all the gifts of wonderful money mines, beaten only by Rhode Island, who was the worst. How are we doing presently?
I can't tell you exactly. My guess is we're sort of in the middle of the pack. If you, when our investment committee met last month, our investment consultant presented results that ranked us against a public universe peer group of, I think it was about 160 funds. We tended, depending on the time period that we were looking at, going backwards 1 year, 5 year, 10 years to compare results, we were anywhere from the middle of the pack to sort of at about I'd say between the 70th and the 50th percentile. So, the middle and down a little bit. So we've climbed up, I think, off the floor. We still would like to go further, certainly, but I say that the trend is the right trend.
This is one of those questions that doesn't need an answer. Not your responsibility, but in a reflective manner. Had the employers been paying the amount that they should have been paying over time, would the crisis of today be as bad?
Well, there's a couple different. You said I didn't have to answer, but I guess I will since I'm here.
I know you well enough.
There's a couple ways to answer that question. The employers did pay what they were asked to pay.
Correct.
Certainly. So nobody can go back and say you didn't pony up what you were asked to pony up. And I would say, as an aside on that point, one of the benefits that New Hampshire realizes as a system is the fact that we have a constitutional mandate to that the rates that the board certifies must be appropriated. So I don't want to sit here and be smug and say, you got to pay, but you got to pay. It's a constitutional requirement, which saves us from the problems of other states who can take what they refer to as pension holidays when the budget gets tough. This is an obligation that has to be paid, which works to our advantage over the long term because we're not able to walk away, as a state, if you will, from that obligation. But having said that, would the price have been higher had we been using the entry age normal methodology over time? Probably so.
I'd like to make one other comment to that, too. One of the biggest reasons, if I understand it correctly, employees pay a fixed amount. The employers, combination of state and municipalities, essentially make up the difference that's necessary based on the actuarial determination of what's required to fund it. The reason the employee rates were low from, for example, 1995 through, say, October 2007, when the stock market peaked at a S&P of 1,500 and something, or Dow Jones of 14,000, is because the stock market went up so much. The employer contributions were down because the investment returns were so high. Is that correct?
Well, certainly in part, but also, and the actuarial methodology that had been in
other than the entry level,
the open group aggregate, magnified the favorable impact of those returns. So, it's something where entry age normal would have muted the impact of those returns and led to steadier rates and higher rates over that period of time.
I found it of interest that you went to the state constitution, as had I, for the Bill of Rights and Article 36, Section A, and the use of retirement funds. For those who can look it up at NewHampshire.gov Constitution, I think it's a paragraph that is very telling. And I thank you for your time here today, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Malley.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Dick. I appreciate it. During the course of the past year or two, this board has become very active in letting the state delegation know how we feel about changes and so forth in the retirement system.
You did yeoman work during the legislative session.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, especially our town manager and Selectman Nichols and attending hearings and so forth. And I know Portsmouth has been on the clock too. But my question is, do you see in the time you've been there, more municipalities getting more involved, calling your office, like you said, you've been to places to go and talk to groups of selectmen, councils and stuff like that. Have you seen that on the rise? I guess my question is, are people finally starting to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to do something about this as far as municipal entities and not sitting back as they used to and say, well, it's only going up 0.5%, or it's only going, now it's like, what's been happening here? And are you getting the sense that towns are getting more involved
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation, and I would say, in all seriousness, I joked with some of your folks. I was wondering who was running the town some days because everybody seemed to be in Concord to testify. But I guess you left the skeleton crew behind anyway.
That's a good thing.
We needed somebody to turn the keys in.
Yeah, but I would say it was very important, and it's very effective. It's one of those things. The local government center can do their thing, and they represent your interests very well. But there's no substitute for having your town manager or your town attorney or whoever it might be.
Yeah. Actually, I failed to mention that town attorney Mark Gerald too. But well, it's good to know because sometimes you think you're just kind of beating your head against a rock, but if you want to know that somebody's listening up there.
More than you might realize. I mean, we talk about our legislature and the 400 people and all that. I've had experience in other legislatures, and as cumbersome as our process might be sometime, it works a whole lot better. I'll tell you, because I would just say anecdotally, a friend of mine who came to this state from another state with a much larger governmental structure, let's just say that, it took him a long time to figure out that he was in a position where he thought he was going to be the power broker to create access for the rest of us poor schmoes. And I had to tell him, I said, it's not that hard. I see 5 state reps on my way to get coffee every morning. So it's we know who our government is, and that makes a big difference. Not to preach a civics lesson, but it really does work. Here in a different way. So if you feel motivated about certain issues, I would say whatever effort you put into it is time well spent. And I think as a result, we have a much more robust debate about the issues than some of our neighbors do.
Great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming in.
Mr. Zanoy.
Yes, thanks for coming in.
Sure.
I read where the state is aging, and it's moving to the right here in terms of age 50, 55, and so on, and all of our younger people are moving out of the state. Do you foresee a problem with more people retiring and less paying in, and if so, what would be the impact on that?
I don't see that immediately here, and I